Look around you right now. From the ground you walk on to the digital digits in your bank account, everything in the modern world is built upon a magnificent illusion. The global superpowers, the trillion-dollar export giants, the oil-rich kingdoms, they are all drowning in debt. The United States is currently walking over a massive $38 trillion black hole. The European Union staggers under 14 trillion, while Japan is crushed beneath nearly 9 trillion. Even Saudi Arabia, built on oceans of oil, or China, the manufacturing heart of the planet, are trapped in this same vortex. But here's the paradox that should shatter your understanding of reality. If every single player at the table owes money, who exactly is the creditor sitting behind the cage? This is where money, power, and history collide. And in this realm, nothing is ever as innocent as it seems. Debt is not merely a financial burden carried by states. It is the invisible architecture of modern subjugation. The bloodiest wars in history, the catastrophic collapses, and the grand economic booms all rest upon a fragile scaffolding of unseen promises. If you follow the chain of creditors far enough into the dark, you stumble upon the ultimate secret of the system. The world doesn't owe money to some sinister external power. The world owes it to itself. But this circular mirror game does not mean everyone shares the prize. Today, we are suffocating in a planetary ocean of over $315 trillion in total debt, nearly 3 times the size of the entire global economy. To understand how we volunteered for this trap, we must travel back to a time before Wall Street's glass towers, where the concept of national debt was born not in a boardroom, but on a blood-soaked battlefield. The year is 1694. England is locked in a relentless war with France, and the royal crown is running out of physical gold. In desperation, the king turned to the nation's wealthiest merchants. In exchange for their immediate gold, the king made a chilling, historic promise: a permanent stream of interest payments, secured directly by the future taxes levied on the English people. To govern this dark alliance, the Bank of England was born. It was a revolution in the history of power. The state could now spend money it had not yet earned. And in return, the merchants received sealed papers stamped by the crown, promises that could be traded, bought, and resold. They had just planted the toxic seed of the modern financial system, the government bond. France copied it instantly, the Netherlands refined it, and a newly independent United States used these exact papers to finance its revolution, and later, its bloody expansion westward. Debt was no longer a badge of failure. It was the ultimate measure of credibility. To borrow was to rule. Empires of old deployed massive armies to conquer territory and extract physical gold. Empires of the modern era simply issued bonds to extract permanent interest. The battlefield had officially migrated to the balance sheet. Fast forward 3 centuries. Debt has become the world's dominant export. The global ledger swells by $1 trillion every 100 days. Every nation borrows, every bank multiplies, and every ordinary citizen, through their taxes, their life savings, and their future pensions, sits at this table as both debtor and creditor. So, who is truly holding the whip? Let's look at America, because Washington's debt doesn't just bind its own citizens, it anchors the entire globe. Of that towering $38 trillion, over half is publicly held, and roughly 2/3 of those investors are America's own commercial banks, pension funds, and the Federal Reserve itself. The remaining 1/3 sits in foreign hands. Japan leads the pack with $1 trillion, closely followed by China at $800 billion. This means the popular myth that China owns America is a total fabrication. Beijing holds barely 2% of the total pie. The terrifying reality is that most of the debt America owes, it owes to America. It is a perfectly engineered house of mirrors. The debt is entirely real, but the creditor is merely a reflection of the system itself, and this circular contagion is planetary. Japan lends to Washington through treasuries. The US lends to Europe through the IMF. Europe lends to developing nations through the World Bank, and those developing nations pump their hard-earned currency reserves right back into Western bonds to keep their own economies afloat. It is a global game of hot potato played with live dynamite, except the potato is constructed entirely of unkeepable promises. Every player has borrowed chips from the person sitting next to them, and the only unwritten rule keeping the poker table from collapsing is that no one stands up. Yet looming above this game is a dangerous 4th layer: the markets, the hedge funds, the shadow asset managers, the central banks controlling tens of trillions in capital. They are the true arbiters of survival. They dictate which nations can live cheaply and which ones must bleed just to service their loans. And when these shadow players lose confidence in a single night, currencies turn to worthless paper, governments fall, and entire economies wake up plundered. Democracy might dictate who writes the laws on paper, but the markets dictate who survives. And the absolute high priest of this temple is the central bank. They do not merely manage debt, they manufacture it out of nothing. Every time the Federal Reserve or the European Central Bank buys a government bond, they type numbers into a screen and conjure new money into existence. The liability of one balance sheet instantaneously becomes the wealth of another. Every single dollar note resting in your wallet is a unit of someone else's servitude. In this system, there is no such thing as debt-free money. Every coin, every bill, every digital transaction has an invisible IOU engraved upon its surface. For decades, this wheel has spun smoothly on a single word: confidence. Investors know full well that these massive principal sums will never be repaid. Their only expectation is that the rent, the interest, arrives on time. As long as that belief remains untouched, the machine keeps turning. But what happens when the illusion shatters? History has shown us the wreckage. In 2010, when Greece's debt bubble burst, bondholders panicked. The IMF and Europe intervened, but their rescue came at a devastating cost to the human beings on the ground. Brutal tax hikes, gutted salaries, and a generation swallowed by mass unemployment. Bailout became just another word for human sacrifice. In Argentina, repeated defaults turned national debt into a permanent curse. In Sri Lanka, when the government ran out of foreign cash to service its loans, the country ran out of fuel, hospitals closed, and the entire political structure collapsed into anarchy. When the system breaks, the creditors who hid in the shadows suddenly step into the light. The IMF, the rating agencies, and the anonymous fund managers holding entire nations by the throat. And the ultimate irony? Even after a total collapse, the machine never stops. New loans simply overwrite the old ones. The ledger resets with a new name on the exact same balance sheet. Because in the 21st century, sovereign debt is not designed to be paid back. It is designed to be rolled over. Governments have absolutely no intention of clearing their debt. Not today, not ever. This is not a conspiracy theory. It is the official framework of global economics. When an ordinary person takes out a loan, they are legally bound to pay it back. But states are a completely different breed of apex predator. They treat debt like a permanent rolling subscription model, issuing brand new bonds just to pay off the expiring ones. A process economists politely call refinancing. The real product is no longer the money itself. It is the interest, the permanent rent extracted for the illusion of stability. The global economy is now hopelessly addicted to this rent. Like a shark that must keep swimming to force oxygen through its gills, the financial system survives not on repayment, but on the continuation of the myth. America will never clear its $38 trillion. Japan has been rolling over debt exceeding 250% of its GDP for decades. Investors are not waiting for their money back. They are waiting to renew the deal. Why? Because to them, sovereign debt is the safest collateral in existence. A U.S. Treasury bond is not viewed as a liability. It is an asset, the very bedrock of the global markets. Pension funds hold it for safety. Commercial banks use it as security, and central banks treat it exactly like cash. The entire apparatus relies on governments remaining permanently in debt. Imagine for a moment if Washington miraculously decided to pay off every single dollar it owed. Banks and funds worldwide would instantly lose their most stable asset. The global dollar supply would evaporate overnight, triggering catastrophic deflation and total collapse. To pay off the national debt would mean detonating capitalism itself. So, when politicians preach about balancing the budget or clearing the national ledger, they are selling you cheap theater. The objective is never to eliminate debt. The objective is to keep it sustainable, serviceable, and seductive enough that the world never stops believing in it. Because the day belief fades, the numbers cease to matter. Confidence vanishes, interest rates skyrocket, and the towering castle built on rolling promises grinds to a devastating halt. That is the grand secret of sovereign debt. The plan was never to pay it back. The plan was to make sure you never stopped believing they would. Yet, in this closed loop of trust, the rewards are heavily rigged. When economists say, "We owe it to ourselves," they are only showing you the polished side of the coin. These massive interest payments do not flow equally through the veins of society. They are systematically drained from the pockets of everyday taxpayers and workers who wake up early every morning, and they flow straight upward into the vaults of the elite institutions and global investors who hold those bonds. In other words, debt is not merely a transaction between nations. It is a quiet, permanent war waged between classes. This is the precise reason why global inequality and global indebtedness rise in absolute lockstep. The system lavishly rewards those who own the debt, while it systematically punishes those who merely pay it. Look at your own life. From household mortgages to the bonds of superpowers, the game remains identical. Only the scale changes. At the peak of this pyramid, there is no single villain to blame. It isn't China. It isn't Wall Street. It isn't the IMF. It is the very architecture of the machine, and all of us who depend on it. Debt once meant physical chains and bondage. Today, they call it a balance. But if that balance ever tips, and that grand illusion of confidence finally shatters, the theater will end, and we will all remember what debt truly is, a dark promise that can never be kept forever. If this gave you a new lens to view the world, smash the subscribe button and turn on notifications. History holds all the answers. I am just showing you exactly where to look. I will see you in the next investigation.